big red brick building with the stone tower is Semaphore Tower, home to the King's Harbour Masters. Now we call them the KHM for short. They have of every vessel's movement in and around the port, from the smallest workboat right up to the largest of the cross-channel ferries. They're always watching with their radar and CCTV, and they have the Ministry of Defence police who patrol 24 hours a day. The blue building over to the right of us was the waiting room of a Victorian railway station. Quite literally, it was the end of the line, or the last stop, for the troop trains, the supply trains, and now and again, even the occasional royal train stopped here. Now, tied up on Victory Jetty today is HMS Queen Elizabeth, and we've also got the Prince of Wales back in the port, finally, after 9 months away, up in the dry docks in Scotland. We've got both of the carriers in the port, certainly for the whole of August. Now, the QEC, Queen Elizabeth class carrier, are the largest carriers built for the Navy, and they were mostly built up in Rosyth, 65,000 tonne, 284 metres long, 39 metres wide at the waterline, 73 metres wide up on the top deck. A full quota of aircraft, 36. Now they can easily deal with up to 64. Most of these aircraft will be the F-35B Lightning II multi-role fighter, and the rest will be all the different types of helicopter. The crew complement on board the carriers, anything between 679 up to 750. There's purpose-built accommodation space to carry up to 250 Royal Marine Commandos. When you then add your pilots, the air crew and all the technicians, now we're looking at 1,600 people on board. Reaching speeds of 30 knots, operational range 10,000 miles. They cost £3.2 billion each to build. Now folks, normally I would have talked to you a bit about HMS Victory, but the Queen Elizabeth is totally obscuring the view of the Victory. But we do get to look at HMS Victory on the way back between the bow of the two carriers. So don't think that I've forgotten about the Victory. So let me just have a look what's going on. If you look over at the Prince of Wales, look, you can see they've lowered the aircraft lifts. Look at this. Oh, look at the back one going up, guys. So there's the demonstration. Pretend there's a plane or helicopter and they lift it up level with the top deck there. And they can do this in load it and up level in 90 seconds. That's pretty good. And you can look into the hangars, anything interesting in there now. Sometimes they got bits of equipment that you can just have a little nose at, but nice to have a little demo on how the aircraft lifts work. Now, Prince of Wales at the end of August will be going to America, and the Queen Elizabeth back there goes on a 4-month deployment. Right guys, we're coming up to the North Corner. The North Corner was very significant back in Napoleonic times. Once you got here and the tide was out like it is now, you would run aground onto miles of marshland in mudbanks. And if you look just in front of us, slightly over to the left, you can still see some of the mud that's left over from this morning's low tide. Now in the old times, that mud stretched right over here. We had thousands of prisoners. We get them to dig by hand a channel from where we are here right down to the bottom of the harbour. It takes years. If this wasn't enough for these characters to do, look over to the right at the 5 dry docks. Long black gates with bright yellow railings stretching over to the far right where the tugboats are. Each one of these massive dry docks leads into a 30-acre lagoon. They were digging that out too. When they finished over there, they lined the floor with bricks. They let the water flow back in, so you could keep it high tide in there even when it's low water outside here. Now over to the right of me, you can see they painted her name away. It used to say RFA Diligence. She was a Royal Fleet Auxiliary. She had been commandeered into the Navy to help with the Falklands. During the Falklands, she proved so useful they were still using her up to 2010. They called her a forward operator. Her nickname was Land Rover of the Sea. Now over the years, if you followed that ship, she would, wherever there was something nasty, like a war zone or a hot spot, that ship was never far from it. She really did turn up in some of the most obscure places. She's been sold now to the scrapyard in Turkey. The little ship over to the right, the camouflage, is called Warship 7, named after the River Severn. Her sister ships are the Tyne and the Mersey, also named after the rivers, because they are the Batch 1 river-class patrol vessels. Now, all three of them used to be fisheries protection vessels. The Royal Navy no longer deals with fisheries protection. This has been passed over to a civilian authority. So, these ships are being painted like this, so they are identifiable as offshore patrol vessels now. We're coming up to HMS Diamond. We have 6 of these daring class type 45s. 4 of them are in port, going through various stages of refit. Refit is when a ship gets taken out of the water.